There we go. All right, let's get started. So you don't need that many things to make this project. You're going to need some just regular all-purpose thread, right? You'll need a needle, and I like the kind that have a long eye like that just because it's easier to thread, but if you just have a regular needle, that'll do too. You'll need a ruler. I'm going to do a little bit of measuring. Some fabric. And in your supply list, I said 2 pieces of fabric just in case you wanted to do one on each side, but I'm going to show you how to do it with just 1 piece of fabric too. That is 12 inches square. Okay. You'll need something to tie the mask with, and I love shoelaces because they stay tied, right? But if you had some odd ribbon or something like that, that will work as well. You just need 80 inches of it all together. Actually, if you're making it for, if you're like between 9 and 12, then you could even use, 72 inches of ribbon. Okay, but I'll explain it as we go. Like I said, you don't have to take notes on anything. And then you'll need something to mark your fabric with. So a piece of chalk, pencil, pen, you know, anything. The markings are generally not going to show, so you don't have to go out and buy any fancy, you know, fabric marker or anything like that. And you will need to thread the needle to start, and I'll show you how to do that. But just so that you have an idea, like this is how many threaded needles I have when I'm starting a project. Okay, it just makes it so that I don't have to stop as I'm sewing. I can just pick up another threaded needle and keep going. And so that's a tip that you might want to think about as well when you get started. Like thread 3 or 4 needles. It also gets you good at threading needles. Okay, so let me put these ones that I've been working on to one side, and we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing is the fabric that you want. You want something that is woven and is not stretchy. So like if you can avoid t-shirt fabric and stuff like that, it'll be better because the woven fabric is easier to work with and it's easier to breathe through, right? So if you can find something woven, that'll be the best. And this here that I have is 12 inches square, okay? That's what we're gonna start with. I'm gonna put the camera down now. Okay, so there's the fabric. Okay, somebody is in the waiting room. Oh, Ciara. Okay, she should be joining us now. Hello, Ciara, welcome. Okay, we're just getting started. And so I'm showing you, this is the fabric that we will use to make the mask. This is just like quilting fabric. And the first thing to do, this is 12 inches square. Okay, 12 inches from side to side. It is a little bit difficult to see this part in the frame because the fabric is bigger than the frame. But we want to make this so that it is a little bit smaller. Okay, so I'm going to fold it in half. And that's going to make it 6 inches. You see 6 inches along one edge, and then 12 inches along this other edge, all the way from one end to the other. And then here it's folded. I'm going to cut off 3 inches of this so that when I'm done, it's 9 by 6. That is an adult size mask. If you're doing a mask for someone who's like 12 or younger, then maybe you want to make it more, you will cut off instead of 3 inches, you want to cut off 5 inches here. So let me show you what I mean. Here's 3 inches from the edge, right? Oh, sorry, let me put the 3 your way, like that. So I'm going to make a little mark for myself. Okay. I've put it in just the hardest place to see. There's another mark. Okay, and then up here, I'll do it again. Connect these marks. Okay, and I'm gonna cut this part off, and then that will leave the rest of the mask the right size, the right length. Okay, so we cut that off. Okay, and then we're also going to make it just a little bit shorter on this side, the long side, so not the folded edge, but the open edge. We'll make it a little bit shorter so that our mask is not quite as tall when we wear it. Okay, and so here, if you are making it for a child, you'd cut an inch off of this side. For an adult, we're going to cut just half an inch. So I'm giving myself, I'm just really eyeballing this. The line here, the reason for the ruler is just so that the line is more or less straight. Okay, so I have a little extra. I have it folded in half, and I'm going to cut this off. Okay, so now I have my folded mask. It's the right size now. And all I need to do is grab my straps, and I'm going to use these shoelaces. The shoelaces are 36 inches long. And if you're making it for a child, you can use these that are 36 inches long, because when you have two of them, it comes to 72 inches altogether. For an adult, it actually should be a little bit longer. You can use the 44-inch length shoelaces. Okay, and you can just take them out of the package. And because you've got two of them, these again are 36 inches long. So if I cut these in half, I'm going to have two pieces that are 18 inches long each. And that's going to be just fine. So I folded them in half. And I also love that the shoelaces have these finished ends already, so you don't have to do any finishing there. Here is the fold. Just grab some scissors, cut that in half like that, and there are my 4 straps, just like that, 2 for each side. Okay, so once you've got your straps, then we're going to mark on the mask where the straps go. Okay, and I want you to remember, imagine that there's a line here that divides the mask in half. Okay, and the part of it is the front of the mask, part of it is the back of the mask. We're first going to mark where we want the straps to go. And it's really pretty easy. Okay, so again, the center of the mask, I'm just kind of eyeballing it for you. Just make a little line like this so that you remember where the center is. Okay, and then we're going to put the straps on both sides about an inch from the long edge. So there's our long line on the top, and this will be the long line on the bottom. And so about an inch in, and I'm again just eyeballing it. I'm making a little mark for myself on all 4 sides. See if I get this all the way into the screen, like that, and like that. Okay, and then, oh, if I didn't say that you need a couple of pins, you do need a few pins to make this as well. And you can just get pins from the drugstore. Okay, so we're going to take each strap and lay it over one of the dots. So here, it's one of the dots, here's the strap. I'm laying it on top of that, and I'm laying it on the pretty side of the fabric, right? So this is the brighter side, this is the duller side. We're laying it on the bright, pretty side. And I want a little bit of the strap to hang off the edge. That just makes it stronger when we sew it on. Okay, so I'm gonna pin this on, and I always demonstrate pinning because it's just good to do. So you'll take your pin, push it all the way through to the other side of the fabric, and then bring it up like that. So that will hold the strap in place. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing down here, hanging off the edge just a little bit. Okay, and in and out. Right, and now on the other side, hanging off a little bit, and then the pin, in and out. My last strap fell on the floor. So there we go. Okay, and then pin. Now, you'll notice that the straps are going toward the center of the mask, and that's how it's supposed to be. So it should look kind of like that when you're at this point. So the next thing that we're going to do is start to sew these in place, but in order to do that, you need a threaded needle. So you saw how many I have already, but let me demonstrate to you how you do it. This is a big needle. I'm going to put the camera up a little bit because it's you won't be able to see. Okay, hello again. All right, so here's a great big needle. This is a doll making needle, but it is helpful so that you can really see what's going on. And there's the eye. Sharp end is here that you want to avoid if you can. And here's a piece of craft cord, nice and bright so that you can see what to do. You just hold it near the end, and then you push the thread through the eye of the needle. If you have a small eye, or if that for some reason is tough to do, you can use a tool called a needle threader. This is a big one, but they come with packages of needles. They're really not hard to get at all, and they're very inexpensive if you buy them separately. They're just, oh, can I slow down? Yes, I will slow down. Okay. So you can buy these separately. They only cost about, I don't know, 50 cents or something. So to thread the needle with a needle threader, you put the needle threader through the eye of the needle, and that's really easy to do because you have this nice, flexible, big loop that goes through the eye of the needle. And then you take your thread and you put that through that big loop, okay, like that. Okay, and just let the thread hang down like that. Then you just pull backward, and that will thread the needle for you. Okay, so that's another thing that you can do. Okay, and once you have your needle threaded, you're halfway there. You still need a knot so that your stitches don't come out while you're sewing, right? So to make your knot, you just even up your threads, more or less, right? Take those two threads, wrap them around your finger like that. Okay, take your finger out of the loop. You'll have a big loop. And then just take the threads and bring them through the loop like that, and then pull. Okay, and then you'll have a threaded needle. Okay, now when I put the camera back down, I will try to go slower. The main part was to get the mask the right size. So I think we'll be able to get to a good pace, but just put a note if I'm still going too fast. Okay, so here we go back down to where our straps are on the mask. Okay, and pinned in the 4 places, right at the top and bottom. Okay, so now I'm gonna take one of my threaded needles, right? This is in a nice bright gold so that you can see. And here's my knot. And we're going to stitch each of these on with just one stitch. And this is just to hold it in place while we do other sewing, right? So that we don't have to have so many pins. So to sew this on, you'll just start on the top, take your needle and push it through. It ran into the pin a little bit. All the way through so that it comes out the other side, right? And then you'll pull the thread until the knot stops it right there. Okay, and then you're gonna come back up a little distance away like that. Push your needle up and pull again. And if you look on the back, you'll see you have a stitch right there. Okay, you can take the pin out now. Don't need that anymore. We're gonna do that one more time. So all the way down and pull, and then back up. Okay, and that will hold the strap onto the mask. Okay, but now we still need to make a knot here so that this stitch doesn't come out. And the way that you do that is you just make a teeny little stitch like that. Okay, teeny little stitch, and then pull your thread until you get a nice loop. Okay, maybe about that size. Then you put your needle through that loop. Okay, and pull. And that will make a knot right down at your, right down at the strap. And now this is secure, it won't come out. So you can cut the thread. And now we're gonna do the same thing on the next strap. Okay, so you'll see it enough times, you'll sort of get the idea of how it works. So I'm making another knot. Okay, and same thing. I'm starting on the top. If you wanted to start on the bottom, it doesn't matter. I'm just starting on the top so that you can see when the knot stops the thread, right? Come up. Okay, you can take the pin out now. One more time down. Okay, pull all the way and then up. Okay, and we make our knot. Tiny stitch, pull, get a nice loop like that. Put your needle through the loop and pull down. Okay, and we'll cut those threads. Now I got 2 more to do. Right? Make another knot. You'll get used to making lots of knots when you're sewing by hand. But it's cool. There are many things you can do by hand that you can't by machine, or it's not as easy by machine. Okay, so push down again. There comes my knot to stop it. And then up. And back down. Oh, I can take that pin out. Okay. And back up. And then just one more, and all the straps are on. Just like that. Okay, loop, and pull. And here's our last one. Okay. Let me show you what it would look like if I started from the back, just so you can see that there's really not that much difference. So now I'm on the back, bring my needle up, and this is how I was taught to sew actually. There we go, the knot stops the thread, and now you'll see the stitch come up on the top, right, like that. We'll go one more time, up and down. This is called tacking, when you just put one stitch on something or two, just tacking it in place. Okay, so now we're going to put the knot on this side. So get our stitch, pull through. There's the loop. The needle goes through and pull. Okay, so now we'll cut this one on this side. Okay, so now we're ready to sew the two sides of the mask together. Okay, so we want to have these straps kind of hanging down like this. You'll see a little bit more what I mean in the next step when I pin this. Okay, but you just have them hanging down like that. And now we're going to fold this over and sandwich the two, all of the straps inside. And we're going to pin along the two edges here, and then along this edge here where it's open, okay? Because we'll be sewing along these three edges, except with a little opening here, so that we can turn it right side out. Okay, so I have it folded, and now I'm going to put a pin in each one of the corners to hold everything in place. Okay, so one pin here, a pin here, and then a pin in this corner and this corner, with the edges all lined up. Okay, so pin in and out here. And I'll put the camera up for questions in just a second. Okay, pin there. Okay, so there are two pins in each of those corners. Now we'll slide over to this side and a pin in this corner and a pin in this corner here. Now, on the bottom, remember I said we're going to leave it open a little bit here to turn it right side out where the straps are coming out. So I'm going to pin a little bit in like that, so that I remind myself to stop right there when I'm sewing. I don't sew all the way across, but you wouldn't, you would remember. But anyway, a pin can't hurt. Okay, so it should look like that. Okay, but before we start sewing, we're going to make a line so that we know where we want to sew. It just makes it a little bit easier. Sorry about the phone. It's, my husband will pick it up. Okay, so it just is helpful to have a little path to sew on. So I like to make a line. So just grab a ruler again. And the purpose of the ruler again is just for making it straight, not so much for measuring. We're going to make it about a finger's width from the edge is where our line will be. So my finger's width is about there, right? That's even a little bit bigger, I think. So just put my ruler down and make a line along there. I should have gotten a newer piece of chalk, but hopefully that shows. Okay, so there's going to be a line here. Same thing on the other side. Again, just using the ruler just to keep it straight, more or less. Okay, like that. And then a line from here to here, where I have my pin. And that's just leaving a little bit of space. I don't know what this is, maybe 4 inches across there to be able to turn it right side out. You can eyeball it. These really are not measurements that you have to check or anything. You just want to make sure that it's big enough so that you can turn it right side out. Okay, so it should look something like that on one side and then on the other side. Okay, let me just put up the camera and see. There we go. Does anybody have any questions about where we are now? We're going to sew. There we go. Okay, we're going to sew the front and the back of the mask together on this step, and then you'll see when we turn it right side out where all the straps are and how it all folds together. Okay, all right, great. Well, if you think of something, just throw it in the chat box. Okay, and hopefully I won't turn myself off again. Okay, so now we're going to sew on these lines, and I'm going to use this bright green thread, which hopefully will show up against the orange. Okay, and all we're going to do is sew the same way that we did when we put the straps on, except we're going to continue going from one end of the fabric to the other. Okay, so we'll put the needle in. Let me start on top again. Push so that it goes all the way through to the other side. Right there, the knot stops the thread. I can take that first pin out now. And then I'm going to come over a little bit and come up. Now I'm to the strap already, and I want to make sure I put a stitch right in the strap. So you see I'm going through all of the layers and right through the strap just to give it extra security. You want your straps to be nice and secure. Okay, and then you'll come back up, and you're trying to stay on the line more or less. Okay, and then just continue along, pushing through, pull all the way, go over a little bit, and come up. You're trying to keep your stitches about the same length with about the same distance in between them, or maybe a little bit less. It's up to you. Okay, and you'll be doing this with regular thread, so it will actually go a little bit faster than it will for me with the craft thread. Right, but this makes it much easier for you to see. Okay, so you just keep going. This is the running stitch. This is the stitch that most people know, even if they think they don't know anything about sewing. They kind of have an idea of this one and how it works to connect 2 pieces of fabric together. And when you're doing it, you just want to relax and keep going and check on each side as you go to make sure that your stitches are nice and flat and you don't have any big loops of thread on either the front or the back. because if you get that, the sewing won't be as strong as you want it to be. You want everything to hold together here, right? Okay. We've been sitting here with our squares cut out. Okay. Oh, okay. I hope that you were able to do the first part, but if not, honestly, you can just watch the recording again and you'll see exactly what to do. Okay, and I always have you get more fabric than you need. So you'll actually have enough to make 2 masks, because it's better to have more than you need than to not have enough, right? And so with those squares, you'll be able to just fold and cut and have it the right size pretty quick. Okay. So now I'm getting to this strap again. So when I make my stitch, I want to come up right in the strap. There we go, just like that. Okay, so that it's nice and strong. Okay, and now I'm getting almost to the end here. So I'm going to keep sewing until I get to the end. And then I'm going to make the knot just like we have been doing on everything else. Okay, so here I am all the way to the other side. I check, everything's nice and flat. So I can make my little stitch. I get my loop, needle through the loop, and pull. Okay. Then cut the threads. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on this side, and I'm getting a new needle. Okay, same thing. Start on the top and pull, and then up and pull, and take the pin out. I'm getting almost immediately to a strap. Right, so I want to put a stitch right into the strap, the needle right through the strap, okay, and then back down. Now, one other thing I want to show you is that when you're sewing, you actually don't have to pull your thread all the way up and all the way down each time. You can just put your needle in and then back out like that and pull, and you'll get a stitch that way too. I'm checking to make sure everything's nice and flat. Okay, so in and out. In and out. Okay. And you can even put more than one stitch on the needle at a time. So there I went in and out 2 times. Okay. Oops, this is caught on a pin here. There we go. So that way I end up with 2 stitches at the same time. So if I go in, out, that'll be 2 more stitches. There we go. Boy, this one just wants to keep catching on here. Okay. And now since I'm at the strap again, I'm going to go all the way down and all the way up just to be sure that I don't miss anything. Okay, take this pin out and last stitch. I'll make my knot on this side this time. Okay, you can see my sewing. Everything looks nice and flat. Little stitch. And pull, get your loop, and finish your knot there. Okay, so now all we have left to do here are the two little bottom pieces. Okay, and at this point, you've been doing your sewing, you'll start to get used to the whole rhythm of it. And so you'll probably go a little bit faster. So I'm going to put the needle in just like always, bring it up, and then just sew that little bit. Put 2 stitches or maybe even 3 at a time. Okay, this is again tough because this is embroidery floss or craft cord here that I'm using. If you're using regular thread, it'll be a lot smoother. Okay, so in and out. Okay, until you get to your pin. And now during this time, you're feeling as you sew with your fingers, and you can do this when you're sewing by hand. It's harder to do if you were sewing on a machine, to make sure that you're not sewing any place that you don't want to, right? You only want to be sewing on the 2 pieces of fabric and through the straps on these ends. So you just feel with your fingers, make sure you're not accidentally sewing through a strap when you don't mean to, or that you have your fabric folded underneath or something. Okay, there's the knot. We can cut this one. Take the pin out. And now the same thing on that last bit. Okay, I'm going to cut a little bit of that off. Okay, so start, make our first stitch. Okay, and then just continue. And you can even get 4 or 5 stitches on your needle all at once. So I'm showing you how that can work when you are more used to what you're, once you have sewn a few lines, you'll get used to that. Okay, so see how I ended up with 4 or 5 stitches there all at once. Okay, and then in and out. You get to the end, and same old drill, we're going to make the knot to hold these stitches in. Tiny stitch. And the needle goes through the loop and pull. Okay, so now we can turn this right side out through the opening. So there's the pretty side of our fabric. There are our straps. So we just push this through. You see it turning right side out. Okay, and there are the straps on each side. Okay, that knot doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. Okay, so there are the straps on that side. And pull again. Okay, there are all of our straps. Everything turns right side out. And since we made an extra stitch. These are just the knots. We can cut those off because we have an extra stitch in there when we were sewing the back and the front of the mask together. Okay, so there we are. And it's starting to look a little bit like a mask, right? Let me go the other way. Everything is backwards for me. Okay, so you can see the straps on this side and the straps on this side, right? So now all we have to do is close this opening here, and then we'll scrunch up the sides, and that's pretty much it. So grab another, let's see, what color do I have here? I've got some pink. Okay, so to sew this together, these edges are going to naturally want to turn in like that, okay? And then you just bring the two edges together like this so that there are no raw edges. And you put a pin in, like that. And now you could sew just right from here to here where the opening was, right, or is. But I like to start at the edge and sew all the way to the other edge, kind of like this one is done, because then it looks like that was what I intended anyway, and not like I'm just closing something up. So let me show you how to do that. Here you want to sew close to the edge. So just put your needle in, pull through, right? We'll cut the knot off afterward. And then we're just going to do the same running stitch, nice and close to the edge like that. Okay, now you'll be sewing through more layers of fabric because you have all of the folded edges in there. So just take your time. And continue along. These stitches can be a little bit bigger because they won't get any stress or anything, but they are going to show. So you want to try and keep them neat. Okay, you can take the pin out. And now I'm going across where the opening really is. So I want to be sure that I'm catching both sides of the fabric so that it does close it up. Okay, a few more stitches. And we'll be done with this part. Okay, so now I'm on this end. Here's my last stitch. Okay. So now I'm just going to make a little stitch again to make the knot. Put the thread through the knot, a needle through the knots, needle through the loop, geez, and pull. Okay. So now we're actually at the last step. Okay, which is to scrunch up the edges so that you end up with some extra room underneath your mask for your nose and mouth. Okay, so to do that, we're going to use some big stitches. Okay, so along here we use small stitches when we were sewing that inside. Here the stitches could be a little bit bigger, but what we're going to do now are quite big stitches which will allow us to scrunch up the edge. And we're going to sew between where the mask is. I mean, where the straps are on the mask. So let me show you how you do it. Okay, you'll take your needle, put it all the way through to the other side. And now I'm sewing kind of near the edge. Knot stops the thread. And I'm going to make a big stitch. I'll show you this on the other side in just a minute. Make sure I don't catch my strap. Okay, this should be like 3 or 4 stitches. Here we go. Okay, one more stitch because I'm at the strap. So one more stitch here. Let me show you what it looks like on the other side. Okay, there we are, just about the same, right? And then you're going to make one stitch over, just a little bit, like that. Okay, there we go. So it will look like this, okay? And then come back up, following the big stitches that you made going down. Okay, so there's one more. Okay, like that, and then one more. Because we're back to where we started. There's my needle, just pull it up. Okay, so when you have that, should look something like that, then you're going to take the thread that has the needle on it and just pull it gently, like this. And do you see how it scrunches up the edge for you? Almost automatically. Okay, and you just are going to pull the thread until you can't pull it anymore, right? And it will look like this on one side. Okay, when you can't pull it anymore, then you'll make a knot. Move that out of the way. Just like we've been doing on everything else. Okay, like that. Needle through and pull. When you're doing this with regular thread, you probably want to make your knot 2 times just to make sure that it's really secure. So let me show you how to do that. You'll just make one more little stitch. Okay, and pull. My thread is really, this craft cord is hard to pull. Okay, and you get the knot, the loop, and you just do it a second time. Okay, and that makes it extra secure. So that will scrunch it up. We can cut that thread, and then we'll do the same thing again on the other side. Okay, so now on this side, exactly the same thing. Okay, let me cut a little bit of this off. Go. Okay, so same thing, I'm sewing between where the straps are with big stitches, put my needle through, okay, go almost probably an inch away. And just make the big stitches until I get to the other strap. Okay, so when I'm at the other strap, I'm gonna turn and go back up to where I started. Okay, so there I'm at the other strap. Okay, turn here. and come back up. Okay, in and out. Okay, last one. Okay, so we're back on this side again. This has got the thread, has got the needle on it, right? So I'm gonna pull this thread and it'll scrunch up the side, just pulling it until there's nothing left to pull. Okay, then I make a little stitch for the knot. The craft cord is really making me struggle with the needle, okay? And needle through the loop and then just pull down. Okay, and again with regular thread, you do that 2 times. Okay, and we'll cut. Okay, this is where some of the other thread got caught in there. So I can cut off that extra. Any excess thread that you see, you can cut off. It's not going to matter now. If the knot's on the outside, it's not going to matter. You can just cut it off. Okay, and let me put up the camera so that you can see how it works. Okay. So these stitches here can go at the top or the bottom. It's up to you. And it just fits over your face just like that. Okay. You tie up here. And then this is where I need an extra hand. And then you tie at the bottom. So I have it up higher than it needs to be. There we go. And then you tie at the bottom. And that's it. So I understand from what I see in the chat box that you're sitting with your squares, which is okay, because really it is a demonstration of how to do this. It's difficult to make it for the first time if you're also learning how to sew and how to thread the needles, and you see how many different needles I use. But I think you'll be able to follow along using the video and the instructions, and now you already have all the supplies. It's really an easy and it's a fun project to make. You can make them for yourself, for your friends, everything. It doesn't take much fabric at all.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a question?
No, I think I got it. I just have to gather the sides better. My sides are not looking so good so far. I pull them and they don't look so great. So I'm gonna do it again.
Okay, just pull until you can't pull anymore. And another thing that you can do, sometimes you need a little bit heavier thread than regular thread.
Okay.
So if you put another piece of thread in your needle, sometimes that will do the trick as well.
Okay.
Okay, but it should gather up the sides.
It's starting to come together. It's not great.
Okay,
I'll fiddle with it. Thank you.
It looks great.
So sorry?
Oh, I just wanted to say it looked great. It looks great. Thank you.
Oh, good. No, and it fits really well. The straps make it so that it can fit lots of different people. So
Awesome. I have a question just for anyone who may be a little accident prone like me. Do you use a something to protect your finger from the needle, or do you have anything that you recommend in case you accidentally stab yourself with a needle?
well, it certainly happens to everybody. That's why I know that saliva does stop blood.
Okay.
So you can use a thimble. And you can still get those at sewing stores and things like that, which helps you to push the bottom of the needle through the fabric. But I find them harder to use than just to use my fingers. And just go slow. That's the main thing, is don't rush, just go slow and get the feel for it. And that will help you, I think, more than anything.
Good advice.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? No? Okay, well, Marie and Jane, I'll send you copies of the video later this evening. And the instructions are, I don't know if you want to print them out or just email them to patrons, whatever you'd like to do.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Okay.
I can't wait to see your masks that you make.
Me too. And if you send them, I'll post them. If you email them to Miss Jane and email them to me, I'll post them.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See you next week.
See you.
See you next week.